praises. Give Jah thanks and give Jah the thanks and praises. Give Jah thanks and praises. Praises. Give Jah thanks and praises. Praises. Give him the thanks and the praises.
Go ahead and put your cameras on as DJ ATS saturates the place. Put your cameras on, cameras on, cameras on.
Give him the thanks and the praises. They say the sun and I shine for all, but I in some people world get never shine at all. These roads of flames are catching a fire. Showed you I love you, you call me a liar.
No. All right, cameras on. We got stuff to talk about today. Cameras on, cameras on. God bless any of you who dared to enter into the lion's den. God, today is the lion's den. Lion's den. Lion's den, lion's den, lion's den. There will be nobody uncut today. My goodness. Today we're talking about good people or bad people. Not or, are. Good people are bad people. And y'all are not going to like today's class.
I'm just gonna go ahead and log off right now.
That's about right. That's the appropriate response.
Y'all have a good
It sure is. I've been noticing all week long, 2 weeks actually, of these people violating these mistakes. Now, here's the deal. Some of y'all just called me today. Some of y'all just called me today. Gotta do my black girl clap. You just called me today. Okay, some of y'all just called me today. And you're gonna swear up and down I'm talking about you. This class was set before you earlier today or the day before yesterday. I said I was going to teach, and you're going to swear up and down. Some of y'all, I said, hey, you should check this out. And you're going to swear up and down. I am talking about you. Here's the deal. No matter what, that's right, Grace. That's right. Go ahead and give it to him, Grace. No matter what, here's the deal. Any of you who do not want, any of you who are used to taking the path of least resistance, there we go. I fixed that right in the middle of it. Any of you who are used to taking the path of least resistance, you are going to blame me for today's entire class. Nothing about what I'm going to say is going to be worthy of you. But you're going to hate everything that I'm going to say. If you're wondering, today we're talking about a good person is a bad person. I'll start now. Introduction is what would be on my outline if I had, well, I do have one, but introduction. Antonio T. Smith Jr. presents, say the title, Good People Are Bad People. And then typically in my keynotes, it would say illustration. I don't have an opening illustration today. So go straight to introduction. I am afraid of good people. I have never met a good person in my entire life that is a good person, that has not been the most evilest person on the planet. And before you think this is hyperbole, before you think this is an opinion, if I pass this $3,000 microphone around, you'd have no choice but to say the same thing. Because anybody running to the pulpit is tearing the church up. That was a metaphor. I didn't necessarily mean the pulpit, but some of y'all who are born and raised in the church know what I'm talking about. Them folk trying to be preachers. There's some folk who shouldn't have been preachers in the first place. I've been in my introduction for 60 seconds. Do y'all mind if you give me just a little bit of Amen or something? Just a little bit of something. I'll buy one if I can. Where's Regis? And what's the Savannah White? No. Anna White? No.
Regis and Kathy Lee?
No,
Or
no, no,
Regis
no.
and Kelly?
No, I'm talking Wheel of Fortune. Anna White?
Oh,
Anna
Vanna White.
White. Anna White.
Say Jack.
Pat Sajak. There you
Pat
go.
Sajak and Vanna White. That's
There
disrespectful.
you go. Ain't shame on me for every day, 7 o'clock.
Grandmother
Channel
would be
11.
disappointed.
She would be very disappointed. Here's the deal. Don't mind me. Today we're going to be steeped in Carl Jung's philosophy. Steeped deeply. I would say I'm a huge fan of Sigmund Freud. His student would be Carl Jung. But I can't even say I'm fans at this point. I should be scholars of these men at this point, but I don't have my degrees in them. So there you go. But don't take my word. Let's start off first with a woman telling y'all about narcissists.
Hey everyone, it's Dr. Romani. Welcome back to this YouTube channel on narcissism and narcissistic relationships and healing from narcissistic relationships. So, here's a question that was sent in. The narcissistic person in my life actually thinks he is empathic. What the hell? Well, what the hell indeed. So let's break that one down. I know that this question asker is not the only person.
We're going to pause. The narcissistic person in my life actually think they're empathic.
In fact, we've gotten this question many times, which is, what? So if you ever had this happen, I mean, if you have, drop it in the comments. You're dealing with a deeply narcissistic person who has almost no empathy whatsoever, and they think of themselves as being deeply empathic, nice people. And they say it with a straight face, like, I'm the most empathic person in the room. And you're like, oh, hello. Like, and you really think now you're in the twilight zone. I recall actually working with someone years ago who was so narcissistic, really vindictive, super mean, absolutely unaware of the needs or feelings of anyone around him, friends, family, partner, colleagues, and would frequently say to me out loud, tell me, hey, Doc, aren't I the most generous person you've ever known? And then he would go on to share with me stories about how he tipped a server hundreds of dollars, or he overpaid someone who was working for him. I'm sure maybe that server at that moment might have thought he was empathic, but nobody else. And he was not. It can feel gaslighty when you are in what feels like a one-way relationship and having your feelings invalidated by the other person who views themselves as super empathic. You doubt yourself. You wonder if you're missing something. You wonder, maybe I'm the one who's not empathic.
I want to pause right here before we continue this video. I did not say, here's the deal. Y'all not for like today's class. I'm going to make this very clear. You don't come here Thursdays to like everything I'm talking about. You come here Thursdays to be transformed. I want to make that clear. Jesus didn't die on the cross in comfort. Seeds don't die in the ground in comfort. Give me a school of thought. Comfort is not the centralized aspect. It's not the cornerstone of that school of thought. Listen to what she's saying. Super empathic people, and here's the deal. All of you know an empath who thinks they're a super empath. And to be honest with you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of y'all are on this call today. Today, 9 of you have claimed in the last 365 days you are a super empath. Ain't too many people more empathetic than you. I can walk into a room and I can. See, they don't like this. They don't like this. Y'all never coming back here next Thursday. Never coming back. We're about to get into some straight science. Since she's a psychologist, we're doing science, but I'm about to move off of her. But just keep paying attention. Super empathetic people. Remember that, Jerome. Put a pin in it. We coming back to it. Watch this here.
I guess they did give a big tip, and I don't give such a big tip, so maybe I don't have empathy. So it's important to know.
Watch her get into the DSM-5 now. That's the Bible for psychology.
That a core element of narcissism.
Okay, she's defining the core element of narcissism. So listen, write this down. The core element of narcissism is whatever she says after I push play.
Diminished insight.
Diminished
People with
insight.
Narcissistic personality style really don't have the capacity for self-reflection.
Diminished insight.
The ability to accurately
Really don't have the capacity for self-reflection. And watch this here. How many of you empaths have the capacity for self-reflection? You're so much of an empath, you don't need it. If you don't know what I'm fit to do is a Texas term. It's a real technical term. Fit to do, it's in a lexicon somewhere. Fit to do, it's in there. I'm gonna go to the other end of the spectrum here too. Right after this, I'm playing this later. I'm gonna play Jordan Peterson next. Today is a deeply rooted psychological teaching. Super empaths. If you believe you are anything, you genuinely have no room for anything else. Y'all not like this. My good friend, Dr. Ferris, is on. He's the smartest person in the room. There's no doubt about it. And whatever he thinks, it will not matter, because Christocentrically, you are not allowed to think you are a thing and think that you're not the opposite of that thing. The absolute moment you become a thing, you become the exact wrong thing about that. You don't have to listen to me. Don't listen to me. Let's just take it out of psychology. Let's just take it into world history. As soon as you make a left, you automatically create a right. You look up, you automatically create a down. The problem with any of these is up is at the center of me. Left is at the center of me. Empath is at the center of me. Anger is at the center of me. I become the center of the universe. How dare am I serving it when I'm the center of it? Put that in your thesis. If I'm the center of it, how can I serve it? It's very hard when you are Antonio-centric. It's very hard. When you do not deny yourself, you become the very thing that you deny in others. Sorry, but today's gonna get much worse.
and
Can you say that?
meaningfully look
Can you
inward.
say that
Yeah,
again?
sure I can. When you do not deny yourself, you become the very thing that you deny in others. I'll say it this way. The moment I look at Ina and I say Ina is wrong, I deny her any opportunity to be right. And see, God don't work that way. Uh-oh. Universe don't work that way. Uh-oh. Hot and cold water don't work that way. The absolute moment I tell Dr. Ferris who he is also the moment I am wrong about whatever Dr. Ferris is, because I am only looking at an angle of the infinity that is him. and I am denying him every other possibility. There's an old black lady in Texas way to say this. God ain't mad at your husband, you are. They didn't like that, Jerome. I'll get off of that. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna hit that one real quick. Hit that one real quick.
Wait. Say it when you deny yourself. When you do not deny yourself.
When you do not deny yourself, you cut off every other possibility for any other possibility. It's just the way it is. Imagine if Jesus, let's just put it to Jesus real quick. Rabbi, should we give to Caesar or should we give to God? Oh, I'm Jesus. You should give to Caesar. Can you imagine how many churches would be funded today? Watch this here. You should give to God. Can you imagine how many preachers would be having flashlights looking at your finances? What you doing over there? What you doing over there? Don't you do that. Don't you give. Don't you give. You get to give all your money to God. Forget your commission. Your commission come to God. There are many times in the Bible that if you're Christian, your Jesus just kept a gray area. Because the moment your Jesus would answer, that gray area would stop being gray. Do you know what we do when things are black and white? There's a word for it. It's called legalism. But I won't bother y'all with that for right now. Let's keep listening to this lady real quick. I want you to listen to narcissism and listen to her define empathy.
And be aware of how their behavior affects others, or even their motivations for their behaviors. Narcissism is basically a series of defenses a person is surrounded by that protect them in their fragile ego. And part of that self-protection is to believe things about themselves that are considered good things, but that are simply untrue, like how empathic they are. My interest, though, is how this affects you, how it affects survivors of these relationships. I mean, right out the gate, it's important to understand what empathy is.
Stop right here. We're going to write down what empathy is. All right. Everybody write down what empathy is. I'm going to give it to you, and she's going to say it. But this is what empathy is. Empathy is understanding and adjusting to others' feelings, emphasizing awareness of your impact on others. I'm going to say this again. Empathy is understanding and adjusting to Kenneth's feelings, and then emphasizing awareness of those feelings and my impact on Kenneth. Empathy is understanding and adjusting to others' feelings, emphasizing awareness of one's impact on others. Empathy is not feeling people. That's y'all motor scooting problem. You think just because you can feel people, that gives you empathy. Newsflash, Antonio, you're channeling your empathy through your childhood trauma. The most important part about empathy, Melissa, is my understanding that when I cut you off, it reminds you of every bad man you've ever dated before talking to me. Y'all not listening, I'll do it again. That was a fake situation. Well, that's a real situation. Here's a real one. Me having empathy is understanding that I missed Jalen's call Monday due to sales, due to this, but I text him back. I still have yet to get with Jalen during our call. But Jalen is fully understanding of my repentance, and that I have told him when I cannot, that's because I am so busy doing this, but you are the most valuable, important person here. You are on C-level valuability. That's not a word. Valueness. I need you. There's 100%. So please don't ever count it against me. It's because I'm in meeting after meeting, hiring after hiring, so I can create your salary. Jalen, would you unmute your mic and please tell them If we had this conversation, and how many times have we had this conversation, and how many times you brought it up? Is it you bringing it up, or is it me bringing it up?
It's definitely you bringing it up. I'm just getting to it.
He never trips, but I'm always bringing it up. And how many times have I told you this? Just to your knowledge.
5.
5, 6 times. Why am I doing this? Because Jalen has low self-esteem? No. I understand that most people sleep on Jalen. They don't recognize his value in the organization. He's always the young one, never to have any real value, and I don't see him that way. And so I am constantly jumping in front of that, not because I feel him, because I never want him to feel back in that position. Y'all gonna catch this later. Okay. Empathy is understanding and adjusting to others' feelings, emphasizing awareness on your impact on others. That's DSM-5. Watch this here. Listen to it.
Is the ability and a desire to understand the feelings and the experiences of another person and make behavioral and emotional shifts in accordance with that. Basically, you see someone crying, you don't walk up to them and say, hey, get over it, or make fun of them. You may adjust your tone, your body language, and try to help them. That
Okay, stop right there. We're done with this video now. She said it better than me. I gave you Antonio's definition. I'm going to say this again. What's important about this? Good people are bad people. And I'm going to tell you right now, most of y'all are very upset with me right now. It's not like I said something bad. It's not like I singled you out. Here's the problem with being and claiming that you are a good person. That becomes your reputation. And when the thing becomes your reputation, everybody here knows you guard your reputation at all costs. I want to help you out real quick, Chef Jay. Your reputation is not your character.
Watch yourself.
In Antonio terms, your reputation is how people see you. Your character is how God sees you, but I'll leave God out of it. Let me redefine it. Your reputation is how other people see you. Your character is who you are.
You say your character is who you are?
Facts. It just took a second, but facts.
Facts.
Because, like, when it comes down to it, they say that next person has to validate you before you're famous or whatever.
100.
So that means they're the ones who's going to build your legacy or put that this is what the world thinks you are on you.
You bring up a good point. You reminded me of a college. I have 3 college professors that influence my theology the most. Dr. Felice Sagwe, he was the Old Testament guy. He influenced all my CLW credits came from Dr. Sagwe because I was a commuter, so I couldn't take CLW. It just means that I had to do 80 hours of class. 8 hours of church just to graduate. Now I want you to hear this real quick. Dr. Sarway's memory and how he knew this and then how these scriptures connected to the Old Testament that influenced me. Dr. Ben Blackwell is absolutely half my no, Dr. Ben Blackwell is most of my theology. My audaciousness in theology, that's your boy Dr. Ferris on the call. So these 3 professors are this terrible mixture of Antonio. So the next time I get too bold, blame Dr. Ferris, please. Just right there, Joshua Ryan Ferris. Just hit him up and say, "You did this to me." Just the next time y'all get offended today, just tell him you did this to me, and then he'll be just fine. He'll know that he did it. Reason I'm bringing it up is because I shouldn't even say his name, but I will. I've had a book in Dr. Blackwell. I was in the Blackwell's class, and I won't say the name of the book. And he was like, "I'm never going to read that book." And I was like, "Why not?" Because no real doctor puts doctor on their books. I never, ever forgot that. Never forgot that. Bring back to you now. Here's a story. Church saw a pastor and said, "Oh my God, our pastor's been here for 39 years. That's Grace Pastor. I said 39-year anniversary. 39 years. Oh my God, we love Pastor. We should get Pastor a necklace that says, most humble man on the planet." So they did. $30,000, diamond encrusted, most humble man on the planet. Pastor wore it the next Sunday, and they fired the pastor. So when the deacon board had to defend themselves, they said, "Why did you fire the pastor? He was the greatest pastor on the planet." Because he wasn't humble. How was he not humble? You brought him a necklace. Yeah, and he wore it. Funny how I get to think you're humble, but when you wear how humble you are, you're no longer humble or humble. Just depending on what side of the Mason-Dixon line thou sitteth. Just depends. Think about this for a moment. That's fair. This is about my opening statement to this class was, I'm very afraid of people running to the pulpit. I really am. Now, here's the deal. My scholar partners are going to say, "Antonio, that's a lot of assumptions and opinions in there. So let me get to deep philosophy."
And this is part of the reason that I'm an admirer of Carl Jung, because Jung makes it very clear that, see, he was very interested in the barriers to enlightenment. Because if there's such a thing as being enlightened, let's say, then why isn't everyone enlightened? If it's just a matter of taking the glorious route and following your bliss, let's say, it's like, well, that sounds pretty easy. Why isn't everyone enlightened? But Jung's thinking isn't like that at all. You know, he believed that in order to transform your personality, that first of all, you had to be disciplined, that's for sure. But you also had to integrate that part of you that was terrible and capable of breaking rules and make it part of you. And so then, and I really like that idea. Well, here's an example. So about 20 years ago, I would say, there was a newspaper headline in one of Canada's major newspapers, and it was the Minister of Foreign Affairs at that time, Lloyd Axworthy, and he was talking about what had happened with Milosevic in the former Soviet Union in Yugoslavia, and the atrocities that were being committed. And he said that he was caught unawares by that because he didn't have the imagination for that kind of evil. And I thought, well, you know, you think that what you're doing is signaling your virtue by making a statement like that. But from my perspective, all you're doing is stating your cowardice and your historical ignorance, because if you're going to be Minister of Foreign Affairs, you bloody well better have imagination for that kind of evil. Because if you don't, then anyone who does wins. They beat you. And so you know, and again, in the Harry Potter stories, you see, he's touched by evil, right? He actually has a soul fragment that's embedded within him that's as black as anything can possibly be. That's why he can talk to snakes. But without that, he wouldn't be able to have any victory. And that's exactly right psychologically. Unless you can think the way that an evil person thinks, then you're defenseless against them, because they'll go places you can't imagine, and then they win. And so the best men I've met, it was interesting even when I was in junior high and high school, because most of my friends dropped out, you know, by the time they were grade 10, thereabouts. And a lot of them were guys who developed physically. They're pretty powerful, and they were just damn sick of putting up their hand to go to the bathroom. It was like, you know, they're not doing that anymore. One of my friends got kicked out when he sort of challenged the gym teacher, physically. And the gym teacher, he could do an iron cross. He was a tough guy, and so it was no trivial matter for my friend to stand up to him, but he got expelled anyways. But, I noticed that it wasn't, it was often the kids whose character I admired that either quit or got expelled, and they were the tougher guys who were just sick and tired of following rules that didn't take into account their character, and then they'd go off and work in the oil rigs or whatever, and you could do that in Alberta at that time, and that was really hard work, so it wasn't like they were necessarily taking the easy path. But like, a harmless man is not a good man. A good man is a very, very dangerous man who has that under voluntary control. And you also see that.
So much to talk about. We're getting into discussion time. So much to talk about. That was real. You can say what you want. That was real. We're not asking you to agree. We're just, I took you to two different ends of the spectrum. I took you to super duper, I'm the nicest person on the planet. Nobody's nicer than me, Antonio. To, I'm the most wicked person on the planet. So now we got two ends of the spectrum. So I want to say something real quick. Okay, Amir, I got your message. I want to say something real quick. Where you at, Tracy? Where's Tracy? Where's Tracy? Where's she at? I saw her. Where's Tracy?
She got Witness Protection Agency on right now.
Okay, fair enough. Well, here's Melissa. Melissa is engaged or married. I'm not sure which one. If her mate is not evil, he would never be able to protect Melissa. I'm going to do this again. For those of you alpha women, you're not going to like this. If you're an alpha woman who wants to be dominated, you're craving a strong man that will respect your opinion and your alphaness. If you're an alpha woman who wants to dominate, you date beta men. Men who will not stand up to you, who cannot. It's not about the opposite. It's about you don't have your wickedness under voluntary control. And what does an empathic person have? A true empathetic person has their wickedness under voluntary control. A true empathetic person knows what it's like to be hurt, so they don't do that. Now watch this. Most of 9 of you that I counted earlier, most of you on this call, most of you are so good that you do not control your emotions. You have triggers everywhere. You're hurt easily, and you're hurt all the time. And somebody says something to you and you hold it for a weekend. And that, my friends, makes you wicked. It does not make you an empath. Just because you feel everybody doesn't make you an empath. That makes you a feeler. That makes your fourth chakra out of control. It does not make you an empath. You're an empath when you know that when you get hurt and you either have that uncomfortable conversation immediately, or you're kind enough not to invalidate people or black out with your triggers, that makes you an empath because you're worried about your wave with me. You're worried about how I'm going to feel when you leave the room, how I feel when we hang up the phone. That's an empath. An empath is worried about Dr. Ferris and his responsibility to his family and what they're going to do. And how quickly are we going to do this, and that? Most empaths are not empaths. Just like most of y'all, somebody called me today. Ooh, I just don't like being around people. I get tired. They kept describing it, kept going, they kept going, they kept going. I was like, that's not introvertedism. That's antisocial personality
It's okay.
disorder.
It was me. It was me.
There you go. I wasn't trying to
Lord
snitch.
help me.
I wasn't trying to snitch up here. You feel me? I wasn't trying to snitch.
No, it's okay. I have accounted for it.
But-
So if you want to use me as an example, I have accounted for the fact that I'm antisocial. I've accounted for the
Antisocial.
fact that I'm a massive narcissist.
There you go. There
I've
you go.
accounted for a fact. Okay, baby's on here, so I ain't gonna say that word. I have accounted for a lot of things,
Yeah.
and it. But I have been learning. I have been increasing my emotional intelligence.
There you go.
So I have been learning how to control my narcissistic, antisocial butthole.
There you go again. That's perfect. That's
So
awesome.
I'm perfectly okay with falling on the sword because I understand that if I don't account for my narcissistic, antisocial butthole, I am always going to be a narcissistic, antisocial butthole. And it makes me a weaker person for it. But when I can account for it, shit.
Y'all are not nice people.
I'm not a nice person.
Anybody
I'm
who
okay with that.
claims violently, vigorously, ferociously, any adjectively how nice you are, I am automatically cautious of you. There's a great movie, Equalizer 3 with Denzel Washington. And at the very beginning, the guy asks Denzel on his deathbed, so to speak, are you a good person? He looks at him and he goes, I don't know. That's the right answer. Now, I've set myself up where I got to prove a lot of things. And once I say something is right, I'm either making assumptions or I have to show the research. So we're going to get to the research of this, but I'm going to blend it while we're having a discussion. So if you just allow me another 15 minutes, there will be enough research here for you to know that to know a thing is not to know anything about that thing. I don't care how much you know, and the more you learn about God is the more you don't know anything about God. The more you learn about quantum physics is the more you know anything about quantum physics. Nobody knows anything. We're all making this up. Oh, I forgot to tell y'all. Phil broke his hip 3.5 hours ago. And we are to pray for him. Yeah. They in the emergency room right now. So we will do that here in a second. We'll do that here in a second. But he about 3 hours before this class, he broke his hip. He fell and broke his hip. So we'll be in prayer for him. All of you, and you know what? That's a great thing. That's a great thing. That's a great example I just brought up. So everybody went, and you did right. And all you empaths went, oh my God. And you did right. But right ain't good enough. Martin Luther says there is man's right and God's right. Just because you have right, it pales into comparison of what is it? Diakonos theos. Okay, it's just a Greek phrase. It means righteousness of God. And I probably butchered it because I'm going from memory many years ago. Go ahead, Grace. Go ahead, Deanna.
What is God's right?
So we're going to define right for the rest of this conversation. Is that okay? Everybody listen, we're defining right. Firstly, you should understand that right is a comparative verb. That's the first thing you should understand. No. Whether you are atheist, intelligent, if you are breathing, if you are a carbon-based creature, right is a comparative verb. To say I'm cold, you're comparing it to the great cold. So now we got to borrow from Plato now. Plato says there is a realm of the absolutes, a realm of the forms. And in that realm of the forms, there's this perfectness. I'm a better philosopher than I can be anything else. There's this perfectness. And the reason why we understand this coldness, because it's this perfect form of cold, science would tell you 0 degrees Kelvin or whatever that may be, right? But there's this perfect form of cold. So when Deanna asks what is right, Plato would say, well, there's this perfect form of right. It's in the realm of absolute. It's in the heavens, or Jerome would say, it's in heaven, and that right is my God, is what Jerome would say. And both Jerome and Plato would be right, because half of what is Christianity today is Platonized Christianity. Half of Christianity comes from Augustine, and he Platonized half his writings. Most of you Westerners are Platonic Christians, whether you know it or not. You're literally Plato philosophers. You really are. So understanding this thought process, this idea, Deanna says, well, what is right? Well, as soon as Ina says, I'm an empath, she's comparing herself. I'll do it again. When you say it's cold, you're comparing your subjectivity, how you feel. So there's a right, and there's what you call gradations of right. Gradations mean levels. So here is Antonio's right. Is anybody expecting me? Let me just figure this out real quick. Anybody expecting me to be the way, the truth, and the light, to resurrect you? Anybody? Does anybody pray to me? Tracy, are you going, our Antonio who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name? Do you?
No.
Nope. Is anybody lighting incense to me, sacrificing? Well, this isn't the Old Testament anymore. Is anybody saying Antonio's Holy Spirit? No. That's because you have looked at me and my intelligence, looked at me and my right, and said, he's right, but he ain't the right. See what I just did? I set you up for my thinking here. You're looking at me and you're going, but there's a greater version of Antonio out there. And depending on what that greater version is, we call him God, we call him Jesus. Well, this depends on whatever school of thought you come from. No, don't miss that. Don't miss that. Because Deanna's question was supposed to be 10 minutes from now, but we pull it up now. Because till you understand that everything that you believe here is subjective, not objective, not this one truth. It's about how you feel. Until you can cross over your assumptions and go to the objective, you really are not having a conversation at all. Not a mature one. You're definitely having a conversation, but not a mature one. So when Antonio goes, I'm an empath, I'm comparing it to whatever I think empathy is. When Antonio goes, I'm right, I'm comparing it to right. Now watch this here. So I'm mad at Kenneth. I would never do you like that. That's now comparative. Never do him like that compared to what, Antonio? And depending upon my frame of reference, I have a perfect version of non-betrayal, and I am judging Kenneth by that perfect version of non-betrayal. Let's keep muddying up these waters and clearing it up. Every time I say, you're wrong, Grace, I'm saying you're wrong, Grace, because I have a perfect form of wrong. And while you are not that perfect form, you show looking just like it. Y'all don't want to hear me. So what's the greatest right on the planet? Well, Dr. Fair said something to me in an audio message online. I'm going to have him, if you don't mind, Dr. Fair, I'm going to have you unmute your mic in about 30 seconds and say, you said all philosophical answers or theology or something. You said it was so cold. So you get ready in 30 seconds to say that brilliant thing you said. When I say this is right, I'm saying, what's the greatest form of right then, Grace? Well, it's my mama. Okay, so what's greater form than the right of your mama? Well, I mean, I guess the Bible. Okay, what's the greatest form of? Is there something greater than the right of the Bible? Well, yeah, Jesus. Okay, or is there something greater than the right of Jesus? And you go, hell no, can't be nothing greater than Jesus. If you're Baptist, you understand that. That's what you're saying. If you're Baptist, and once you go so far to where you can't get, now this is, I'm borrowing from Thomas Aquinas here. Once you go so far to where you can't go far enough, you end up in what we call God. That's your perfect form of right. I dumbed that counter argument down for ease understanding. But Dr. Ferris, if you want to say this beautiful quote you gave me.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think I was quoting Stephen Priest, and Stephen Priest says, quote, all philosophical questions have theological answers, end quote.
Yes, and then but you said something right after that. You said, and hopefully we keep asking theological questions, something like that. That's the part that hit me.
What did I say after that? What
We
was
was
it
talking about my dissertation. You said all philosophical questions have theological answers. And then you said, and hopefully we keep asking theological questions, or hopefully keep asking philosophical answers. It was a tongue in cheek that you said right after it, but I don't remember it. But it was so deep. It was so deep. But that was the quote. You got the quote right though. You got you got the quote right though. You were just saying, hopefully we keep following this path. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember what I said, but something to the effect
using his
of
own.
theology is not dead, while many think it is.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Thank you. Here's the deal. Grace, when you say you're right, you're comparing yourself, according to your faith, to God, whether you know about it or not. Whether you cognitively think of that, because right is a comparative verb, and you got to keep going until you get to the greatest right. So in our emotions, we're not thinking about saying to the greatest right that is God, because if we do that, that makes us forgive Antonio. But we'd be damned if we forgive Antonio, because he got me messed up. You understand? And God be how many of y'all in your flesh, God be taking too long to fix your problems? See if I can get some. Thank you so much. I sure appreciate y'all honesty. Jaylen, Jaylen got his mic muted. I heard his whole I heard the whole his eyes rolled to the back of his head. Definitely. So Deanna, what is right? This is Antonio's definition now. Okay. I've given you the philosophical definition. I'm going to give you Antonio's. I'm giving all y'all Antonio's definition. Is this clear? This is what I call right after years of being Socrates and asking geniuses questions. Okay. This being dumb and asking geniuses questions. If you ask Antonio what is right, right is harmony. But now I must define harmony. Harmony is doing what is good for you while also being good for others according to what is right, based on that right of right. Very long, it's not a long definition, but everything there was loaded. Everything there was loaded. Doing what is good for you. But I can't just do what's good for me when I'm infringing upon Ina's rights. We even got constitutions for that. Well, I'm sorry, for those of you not in America, we have the U.S. Constitution, the ninth one specifically, that spells this out. So when I do what's right for me, it needs to be in alignment with what is right for Jerome. Because how can two walk together? Lest they agree. Now, once we're walking together, Mike, now but are we walking together rightly, but not based on my rightly, the right that is compared to the great right? Now, that right is capitalized. That's the Lord, Adonai. That right would be capitalized. I'm saying in simplicity, Antonio believes right is about harmony. Why? Because I don't think humans can ever be right. This is where I jump into my Baptist total depravity. This is like I just jump right into my total depravity. Just get all up in there. I don't think we can ever be right because I think there is a right that I have to die to my flesh daily to get to. But then there is this esoteric right. And the reason, do I come for that with God? No. As a matter of fact, if y'all remind me in about 15 minutes, remind me to tell y'all what I actually think about God, which is terrible because I'm going to say it in front of my PhD professor as I'm writing a paper about God. It's going to be terrible as I do that. But anyway, I'll do it anyway. I'm thinking, Jerome, here. The reason why I don't think we can be right is because before you ever taught me, before I ever knew to lie, I somehow knew I was going to get in trouble when I did. So I can't know something that I'm already innately designed to know. And that's the conundrum for me. So my answer is this philosophical hangup. Because in order to, so maybe the problem is my idea of what knowing is. Maybe I assign ownership to knowing. If you know something, you own it. Maybe that's what I do. I don't know. But I just know that before I got here to be right, I knew as soon as I messed up the kitchen, Jerome, at 6 months and had flour everywhere, you didn't have to tell me I was in trouble. I got quiet and messed that kitchen up. You didn't. Who knows? Who got these kids know what I'm talking about? The reason why you stopped, you went, wait a minute, he been too quiet too long. I got quiet so I could mess it up. There's something in me that knew that already. So this is why I have trouble by owning that I am right or can be right. I do believe there's levels, gradations of me being right. But I have this place in my life for ascension that when I'm supposed to always be, I'll borrow from the church in this particular case, dying to my flesh to achieve this greater version of right, this Platonic version of right, since I brought up Plato earlier. Anyway, not confusing, but trust me, if you are a scholar of any kind, I gave you like 5 answers in 2 minutes. So God bless you for even listening. Okay. God bless you for even listening. Okay. Deanna, back to you. We open up for discussion, and don't let me forget, Grace. Send me a message. Tell me about God. It'll remind me to tell you what I think about God. It's a doozy too. God. Deanna, back to you. So Antonio would tell you simplicity, right is harmony. But I'm also telling you don't agree with me. What I am absolutely telling you is there is no right. If I was to say anything, I would tell you there is no right. Because based on everything that I said, I'm also saying that as long as a human thinks it's right, it can't be right. Now, while that makes a lot of sense in total depravity, Grace, it leaves me wide open for counter arguments that I could poke a hole in myself. I can write books on it, plenty of books on it, because, well, are baby dying of cancer not right then, Antonio? Because if you can say right don't exist, and I can say a lot of things can be taken care of. What about pedophilia? If right don't exist, Antonio, aren't you giving permission to pedophilia? These are some of the counter arguments that I could point into that all on my own. No, go ahead.
So
hold on, before you go, remember, I don't come here to give y'all answers. I come here to force y'all to think for yourselves while messing your head up. with these answers. Okay, go ahead, guys.
So on the subject of pedophilia,
Yep.
I saw somewhere where there's a discussion where they're making that an actual sexual preference instead of it being. So how does that? It's like it for me. It falls under the lines of, okay, so you're trying to say it's right because that's what they prefer sexually, but at the same time, it's wrong. So like, how does that?
Well, you had a good argument till you said for me. As soon as you said for me, you killed your argument because now it's completely subjective. And you're no longer, yeah, you just killed the whole argument. So let's take for me out of it and keep every single thing else you said in there. That can pedophilia be a sexual preference? This is a doozy, isn't it? First off, let's prove Antonio Theodore Smith Jr. wrong first. Because if I'm saying there's no right and I'm saying there's no wrong, I just gave permission for rape and sex trafficking and pedophilia. Do y'all understand that? I'm saying this is what I'm saying. I'm not saying it explicitly, but implicitly, I am saying that whether I want to or not. It's not my intention to say that, Jerome, but I am. To borrow from Dr. Ferris, I do have the chops enough to know I did say that. Whether I want to admit it or not, I did say that. I did. And that is a problem that I said it. Because that's the whole point of an argument, is to have counterpoints. Go ahead, Dion.
So when you say that there is no right and there is no, I see what you're saying, because when you say there is no right, that also means there is no wrong. That also means if I walk up to a random stranger and stab them, I'm not wrong.
This is correct. Based
But
on
I'm
what I've
also
said, you
right.
can say that. But based on what I've said, you can also say that too. Based on what I've said, you can say both.
Confusing.
So now I have to bring up God, but I don't want to do it just yet. I don't want to answer. So basically, I have a reconciliation for this. I'm clearly holding this reconciliation so we can struggle.
Well, I'm struggling.
Well, I want you to struggle. Go ahead, Damali.
Because you said that you define right really more harmony, right? It's something
Right.
harmony not. So somebody getting raped is completely totally different. One person is enjoying it, the other person is terrified. There's no harmony there. Pedophilia. Now, can pedophilia be categorized as a preference? I would say yes, but that doesn't make it harmony. It doesn't make it put us in harmony with nature, harmony with everything around. You can put a definition on anything, but it doesn't make it right or wrong or harmony or not.
Yeah. So we're going to enter a new word into this conversation. You didn't say it, but you genuinely argued it. Justification is what she did by accident. Just because you're justified doesn't make it right. So now we got two different words we're struggling with now. We're struggling with what is justification, and there we go again, struggling with what is right all over again. And the truth is, I did not come here to answer this question today. And I am not on a rant. I am so strategically and cleverly back on my thesis that I gave y'all up front, that good people are bad people. And all I'm doing is showing you every time you take a positive, you're exposing yourself to the negative. This is exactly what I'm saying. What I'm actually trying to prove here is one thing and one thing only: Carl Jung. That's the only thing I'm trying to prove. And it's the shadow, but I haven't got to it there. I haven't got there. Whether there's a bunch, but I haven't got there yet. The only thing I'm actually trying to prove, Grace, is if you're not accounting for your wickedness, then this whole conversation is confusing. Whole conversation is very confusing. And the good thing is, I want it to be confusing. Antonio, why you want it to be confusing? Because I want you to think for yourself. I didn't come here to think for you. I came here for you to cognitively, behaviorally come to your own conclusion and establish your own ideals. Dr. Ferris said, you're not saying that if you're bad, then you're good. No, I'm definitely not saying that. And I'm not saying that. And I can't think of, if I said anything that said that, it was completely by accident. I must have had an underdeveloped idea, because I'm definitely not saying that. But that's a good point in itself, though. Why would I be so strong about that? Like, let's listen to what I just did. If I'm saying you're good, so if let's flip the question, Grace. If he would have said, so you're saying if you're good, you're bad, I would have been equally as strong with that, because that's a correlation, and both of those correlations I'm not okay with. See, I'm not okay with. Let's take the correlation I did very early in the conversation. If you look up, you create a down. That's 100% facts, but I'm not okay with that correlation. If you look left, you create a right. That's 100% facts, but I'm not okay with that correlation. The reason I'm not okay with that correlation, Grace, because there are tribes on earth. And before we had an up, down, left, or right, we had mountainside, seaside. See, I just have this understanding. I'm not saying it's right, but I have a problem with the correlation as I become the center of the universe. That's the correlation that I have a problem with. That if I'm good, then I'm saying this is bad. If I'm saying this is bad, it's good. My hang up there is the correlation that I get to decide. That's my problem with this correlation. That is me deciding. Now let's pause real quick. Just pause just for open conversation dialogue. I'm not telling y'all I'm right. I'm literally not trying to be right. What I am doing is doing a great job facilitating this conversation. I'm not trying to be right. But I do have a strong problem with I decide what's right and I decide what's wrong. That I have a problem with. What's my problem with that? Well, we would have to ask more questions, Eden, for me to dice it out in my brain. I'm perfectly okay with deciding what's right and wrong for me. But the moment God puts others in my existence, I have a problem with being Bildad, Eliphaz, and so far. Did y'all get what I just did? Who got what I just did? Who got what I just did?
Job.
Grace, Job.
Job.
Okay. I have a problem with being Job's friends. I have a problem with being Bildad, Eliphaz, and Jophar. Are you saying that the good by which we adhere is something that is not conditioned by our own contingency of finite structures? Yes, I'm absolutely saying that a part. So when we place structures on strictures on them, then we do something bad. It's a good question. I understand it. Let me think. I'm ping ponging this in my head right now. I think so. My answer, I got you, Deanna. My answer would be yes, if our motives are not aligned with something greater than us. Something greater than us. I'm trying to get us aligned to something objective that does not change. If you take everything Dr. Ferris said, see, we change. I'm trying to get us to act like something in the realm of the absolutes, as Plato would say, that doesn't ever change. Last thing I say, get ready, Diana. I'm trying to get my right. Listen to me, please. Everybody write this down. Antonio is trying to say that if Antonio is judging his right by himself, that he has a problem with that. He has to be wrong. But if Antonio is judging his right by the great realm of absolute rights, whatever you want to call that, then Antonio can make that argument.
I think I get it now.
Yeah, I have a problem with humans being the standard. It's my problem.
I caught that. Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
go ahead. Just say what you got to say. We're here to have a conversation.
Okay, so one of the classes that I'm taking is a conscious-based class,
Okay.
and we're learning about subjective knowledge, objective knowledge, and what was it? It's the third one. Well, those are the two that
I'm surprised it's the
subjective,
third one.
subjective knowledge,
Right. That's what we've been talking
objective knowledge, and
I
there's
can back to Ferris may know that I've never heard a third option there, but to be honest with you, I've never heard a third option.
it's and traditional
Oh, okay. Well, that's fair. Okay.
and traditional knowledge is what
Then
you
we're going
learn.
to call that tribal. So hold on, stop real quick. Don't forget what you're going to say.
Mhm.
So we need to define tradition here for this conversation. First off, let me tell you before I define. What I do during these classes is I give y'all thoughts that I'm bullish on or struggle with, and they become this great conversation. One of the reason why this class is so effective is because I'm never trying to be right in this class. So if you're going to do something like it or teach something like it or learn from it, know that this class is effective because I don't mind dying on the samurai sword. I'm not coming here to decide what is something. I'm always coming here to discuss where I may be wrong. That's what makes this class effective. Back to you, Deanna. Tradition is the living faith of the dead. Please write that down.
Watch it.
Traditionalism is the dead faith of the living. So I'm giving this to you right now. One day, after Dr. Ferris finishes dragging me through the mud for the next 5.5 years or whatever, they're going to call me a scholar. And they're going to call me a scholar. Tradition is the living faith of the dead. Traditionalism is the dead faith of the living. So when you have traditionalism, you can call that tribal thinking. That's when this is the way we do it. See, we can't get so, we can't think because Joshua was called after Moses died that God had to kill Moses to call Joshua. We have to be very careful with that. That was okay. That was probably too complex. My fault. My brain works that way. I'm so sorry. Okay, I don't know how to dumb this down, so y'all gonna have to help me. Joshua, Moses is dead. Get up and walk. This is a biblical example. Joshua chapter 1. What I'm arguing here, Kenneth, is while the circumstances was that Moses was dead, God didn't need Moses dead to do a new thing. This is what I'm. Both were meant originally to enter into the promised land. It was, no, see, there I go again, Jerome, spitting these conservative facts. It was never meant to be for Joshua to wait for Moses to die to enter in. But that's what we do with that thinking, though, Grace. We say, that's what we do. We look at Joshua getting in and Moses having to pass away to think that in order for God to do a new thing, the former must pass away. That's not, that's not scripture. That's
Well, listen, old things are passed away. Behold, that's what they're gonna say. Okay.
This is the problem with quoting text out of context. Okay, this is the problem with that. So the reason, get ready, Deanna. The reason I brought this up because I wanted to define tradition, because the way I'm making a strong assumption here is the way they were using tradition was tribal thinking. So I needed to do it that way. Go ahead, Deanna, please, and then I'll read Dr. Ferris' things.
Okay.
Dr. Ferris, you're more than welcome to say these things out loud too. It's up to you. It's all good. Go ahead, Deanna.
Okay, so the entire time I've been in this class, I've been merging what Antonio has taught me with what they're teaching me, and it's all the same things, just with different words.
You're gonna be a rebel if you talk out loud. I was a rebel in Dr. Ferris class.
I've actually been complimented on a few of my reports. I've been complimented because I combined what they taught with what you taught, and I put it on paper, and they complimented me.
Fair
So
enough.
there's three ways that us humans as the Noor take in information.
Hmm.
It's traditional knowledge, which is
Yep.
knowledge, which is tribal learning.
Have no
It's
choice.
subjective knowledge, which is based on experience. And then there's the objective knowledge, which is, I'm going to say, and here, which is God, based on the
Okay.
conversation we're having. So what you're saying, so if I'm getting this right, what you're saying is you have a problem with us saying something is right if it comes from a tradition, if it comes from traditional knowledge and subjective knowledge. But if we're
Almost.
saying
Keep going. Keep going.
but if we're saying it's right based on objective knowledge, then that's what right is. Right is coming from objective knowledge, not subjective
This
and
is
traditional.
correct. This is absolutely correct. As long as you
Got it
put,
now.
as
Okay.
long as you put, but what you have to do, your flaw in the first part is that it assumes that I have a problem with tradition in your first part, because it assumes that I think traditional knowledge is also subjective knowledge in the first part. That's not what I'm saying. If tradition comes from objective knowledge, I'm okay with that too. This is why I respect sacred texts. See, you get it? If I think
Yeah.
a sacred text is a tradition, if I think a sacred text is subjective, then it's no longer infallible.
Right.
And I have a problem with doing that too. I have
So
a major problem with doing that. No, go ahead.
So the Bible is traditional knowledge, but it's also objective knowledge. And you're saying to say that to say something is right based on the traditional knowledge of the Bible and the objective knowledge of the Bible, that's okay. But to say something is right and you're coming from the traditional knowledge of tribal thinking and the traditional knowledge of subjective, not of the traditional and the subjective knowledge of experience, then that's when the problem comes, because it's coming from a human saying something is right versus this is what the Bible says, and the
Okay.
infinite
So,
being of all things says
what?
this.
See, I have a problem with this infinite being thing too. We're gonna come back there in a second, but you were 99% correct, and plus I was 100% wrong. I realized as you were telling me what I said, I need to fix my argument. Okay. I realized that. But based on every single thing you said, you quoted back to me 100% of my argument. So you're right, with the exception of that very last part. I don't have a problem with humans being right. I don't have a problem with humans being wrong. I have a problem with humans being the standard of what is right and what is wrong. This is what I have a problem with.
Okay, and okay, I understand that problem.
Yeah,
Because
this is what I have a problem with, because we're not tapping into this Plato-ness. I'm not making Plato the standard, but he's a really good example for this example, though, Dr. Ferris. This idea of this absolutes is a really, really good argument that it's just going to continue to be here until the end of time, because it's like this allegory of the caves, which I'll spare you from right now unless it comes back up. But it's just this idea that the moment Antonio thinks he is right about Michael, then I limit Michael in everything he could be, because he's an infinite possible. He's in a superposition, is what quantum mechanics would say. What I've done is I've collapsed this infinite wave of possibilities to a particle that only my subconscious is seeing. And I'm so right about my programming, traditionalism, not traditionalism, tradition. I'm so right about my programming that I've made Dr. Ferris a prisoner of my programming. And that can never be right. That's called a social construct. I've now put him in my social construct. And when you put somebody in your social construct, you are the warden, you are the guard. And if you put yourself in your social construct, then you are the prisoner too. You are the prisoner in itself. So let's back up real quick. So Deanna, with the exception of the very last part, when you thought that I thought that humans can't be right, or humans, whatever I just said, you were right. And to that last part, because that's what I said. I need to fix my argument. Okay. I need to fix my argument. She's right. She quoted me. And when I heard me back, I was like, damn, I can't put that in the paper. Can't do that. Right. It's terrible. I said, I can't do that. Okay. She quoted me back. Here's what I'm saying. That as long as we are our standards, then we are a detriment to humanity in itself. Because equality does not exist in nature unless we create it. Now, this next statement is not up for contestation. You are more than welcome to disagree. But nature doesn't make a breast the same size, a nipple the same size, a finger the same size, a snowflake the same size. There is no ears the same size. There's nothing in nature that is equal. The only way that we can create equality as humans, I got to borrow from Jesus in this case, Jerome, you won't have a problem with this, is to lower ourselves and create it. This is what I'm saying. I'm 100% saying that as long as Antonio, think about it, we can localize it to this conversation, even. As long as I'm writing this conversation, ain't none one of y'all opinions matter. We won't be no conversation. It would be a whole 2-hour verbal masturbation of invalidation is what it would be. It was just, I would feel good about how I invalidate everything y'all say. No, but that's what invalidation is. Invalidation is to know, oh, I'm right. Here's how you're wrong. Right. That's like one of the tenets of being Baptist, Grace. You have the right to be wrong, is what that's what Baptist folks believe at the heart of their beliefs. Okay. Let me go back and read this here. When we adhere to this is Dr. Ferris, when we adhere to the conditions of God we've set, then we have implicitly that's insidely. That's not what it means, but I'm trying to catch everybody up. Made ourselves God, i.e., is for instance, goodness. The Apostle Paul, not the Apostle Paul, Martin Luther would certainly agree with that. He's got the paper, The Two Forms of Righteousness, right? He would certainly agree with everything you just said there for sure. Does Antonio agree with when we adhere with the conditions of the God we've set, then we have implicitly made ourselves God? I absolutely agree with that. My fear would be, are you a good representation of God? That would be my fear. I absolutely agree with that. But are our motives aligned with God? Here's my problem with God. Here's my problem with saying God. Here's my problem with all these things. It's because, so there's something called, I'm gonna read Dr. Ferris coming in a second. There's something called God of the gaps. Are y'all familiar with this? Yeah. It means every time we don't understand something, we put God in it, right? And here's the deal. I am gonna get in so much trouble for this, but it's true. The deal is, if your idea of science is based on the God of the gaps, then you're going to be wrong in a generation or so. That's been world history. That's been world history since world history. So I'm not, and here's the deal, I'm not trying to separate God from what's the saying? What does Athens have to do with Greece? I'm not trying to separate. No, that's not right. What does Athens have to do with Jerusalem? I'm tripping. Now it makes sense. So what does philosophy have to do with theology? I'm not trying to separate the two. That's why I had Dr. Ferris quote that quote, because I do believe that philosophy and theology are one and the same. I would even go so far to believe that theology, all questions on theology. The reason why I would agree with his quote that he quoted from whoever he said his name is Priest, Stephen Priest, I believe he said, it's because I can't disprove it. When I can't disprove something, then I say it is true until otherwise disproven. No, don't miss that. This is the beauty and joy of science. When I can't disprove something, I'm not, I don't have cognitive dissonance about this thing. If it can't be disproven, then there it is, Dr. Ferris. I'm not tripping. I immediately submit to such a thought. But that's not how we do in politics. If we did that in the White House right now, we are literally not hitting budget every fiscal year because we disagree with something on an emotional basis. We're not looking at the argument. There's no reason on the planet America should not have healthcare, universal healthcare. There's no reason on the planet. Antonio, why are you here's okay. Supposition. I'm sorry, I'm stopping using these big words. I want to say proposition now, but away from I'm sorry using the big words. First point of my argument set forth. There you go. First point of my there you go, Grace. Remind me when I default to all the books I read. First point of my argument set forth that we should have health care. Second point, universal health care. Second point of my argument, why should we have universal health care? Because Congress does. End of argument. End of argument. Nope, you missed it. My argument is not political. My argument is not emotional. You do not give 475 Americans a thing and then don't give it to the rest. Say what you want.
Facts.
Or we need to change the United States Constitution. Now, right now, I sound extremely liberal, but I'm not being liberal. I'm being super libertarian conservative. If you're going to award it to the people creating laws, then you must award it to the people the laws are created for. That's my argument. It's that simple. Now, am I right? No. Will they ever give me a microphone? Absolutely not. You know how much spice that would create on Fox News if I said that? No, of course not. They're never going to let me do that. But just think about this for a second. Can you see the way I structured and handled that argument? It wasn't emotional. All right, somebody just probably messaged me. Did you get to your view of God yet? Ooh. How many of you, how many of you want to know my view of God? I'm very interested. And okay, 1, 2, 3, way too damn many. All right, then. So y'all just want me to die today. That's what it is. Just I was, you know what, Jerome, I was happily, proudly Dr. Ferris PhD student, and now I'm about to get kicked out.
Antonio, the reason I don't need to know your view is because you're heathen. And that's good enough.
That's good enough for you. There you go.
I'm good.
There you go. Yes, there you go. All right, here's my view of God. I'm only saying it because it fits this argument. I don't know if God exists like nobody else knows. That's easy. When Deanna was asking her question about God, it assumed that I didn't catch God by faith. I need y'all to receive this. Half of what y'all call God has to be caught by faith. God gonna take care of you. Where's that at? How many of you believe? How many of you are believers right now in any monotheistic God? Okay. And what percentage of your life has God taken care of you to your standard? Don't fool me now. I didn't ask you to give me some theology. I said to your standard.
Okay, so that's some BS. I know I was talking to my sister, but I was sure reading what closed caption said. That's some BS because the next couple of weeks sermon at church has been about last Sunday was about patience and believing God, and I was like, none of this makes any sense to me, because one of the questions during our Bible study was, do you trust God? And everybody was like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. I was like, I don't know. I ain't gonna even lie to y'all. I don't know God like that. I don't trust him. It's just like double dutch. Do I trust him? Do I trust him? Do I trust him? Do it. That's how that is. I can't say that every day I trust God, because I trust me because I see me. And that's just real. I don't see God. I have a belief in God. I believe he is there. I believe that he will help me. I believe that he will put people in my path. But do I know for sure? I do not.
Well, most of what we call faith must be caught. Most of what we call faith must be caught. Yeah, hear me? Like, you have to have a catcher's mitten on and catch it. You must. This is why I don't blame who we misnomerate as Doubting Thomas. Man, get out of here. Ain't no man came back from the dead. Watch out, player. Get out of here, man. Lest I put my finger in. I would have said the same thing. Is anybody expecting me to die and raise on the third day? Anybody? Can I get a witness? Anybody? Anybody gonna pray to me when I anybody gonna bring me offering when I'm dead? And then the tomb was empty. Anybody go, no, no, no. Okay. All right, then. So not only is that sign, no, the real reason you don't believe in that is because I have sins. So I cannot. Like, this is the real reason you believe it. Because Jesus had no sin, so you can believe in that. Since I have sins, you cannot believe that I can resurrect you. This is why you should be believing it. Not because of my charisma. You should be believing it because I have sinned. Since I have sinned, I have a separation. The Greek word. This is the only time I like the NIV version is in one scripture where it says, faith is lavished on you. Since I have sinned, Ina, faith must be lavish. That's to beat it on me like this. Like, the blood must be pushed on me. Because, let's face it, Grace, something wrong with me. You understand? I know ain't nothing wrong with y'all. Dr. Ferris ain't never seen it his whole life. As for me in my house, I ain't never seen halfway. I don't even know what a partial sin is, Tracy. I've never seen a partial sin. Every sin I did 10 toes down. I don't know what y'all. I know what y'all say. Anyway, back to the point. Look, Ebony did this here. Did the little fingers up. Okay. Here's the deal. My belief in God is extremely filtered through common sense, which creates a problem and doesn't create a problem. Can we go for it? All right. So it's a 3-part answer. Number one, when you say God is all knowing, this creates a problem for me. When you say God is all kind, what's the 3? We got omnipresent, omniscient,
Omnipotent.
all powerful. So when you say God is love, this creates a problem with me. So I have to catch these things by faith. You're not listening. I'm gonna do it again. When God is all knowing, then God can't be all kind at the same time. This is extremely heretical, but if you let me finish, I will get out of the heresy and you won't have to burn me at the stake. You won't have to burn me at the stake. I am what you call a new covenant theologian. I try my best to hold on to the unity of the Old Testament while holding on to the disunity, discontinuity, things that happen different in the New Testament. And they create a strain for me. But at least I'm holding, Jerome. At least I'm holding. At least I'm wrestling. I'm in the fight. I don't need to be right. Damn it, I'm in it. I'm in the fight. At least I'm wrestling. Some of y'all ain't even wrestling. At least I'm wrestling. Okay, let's make it clear. Antonio, why can you say that? Aiden, Ashton, listen to me. Because when God is all knowing, some baby just got raped just now. I have a problem with that. Right now, there's some less than 1-year-old baby getting raped to give you the entire emotionally charged subject. So while God is being all knowing, God can't be all kind. And I struggled with this for a long time. That's not the argument. Just listen. This was my argument. Y'all hear it? This was my argument. My argument was, well, God can't be both. Because my human eyes tried to let me make it even more muddier so y'all can get mad at me. You agree with me. You don't want to agree out loud, but you're going to say, well, God works in mysterious ways, but you're not denying that a baby is being raped. You agree with me. You don't want to, but 40,000 children today died of starvation. Every day, 40,000 children die of starvation. That don't seem all kind to me. So what I did was I recognized one thing, and I hope this helps you in this argument, because that's why I'm bringing it up. I said to myself, well, I can't be right. Why can't I be right, Jalen? Because I knew I was right. Stop. That's been the foundation of my entire conversation. My entire conversation today has been, since I know I am a thing, I am dangerous to that thing that I claim. What's the difference between saying, well, God can't be all knowing and God can't be all kind? Why, Antonio? Because I know it. It's science. What's the difference between saying that and I'm a good person? I'm a good empath. There's no difference. We're behaving the same way. It's just a different argument. It's a different ontological argument. It's a different argument, but the same argument nonetheless. So I knew that I couldn't be right. So it created like a Hegelianism. George Hegel, everything has a synthesis, and then eventually there's a thesis that comes out of it. And then for a while, there's an antithesis or antithesis that comes out of it. Neither one wins, and it creates a new synthesis. To give you an example of that, slavery is good. Yes, 400 years slavery is good, and all of a sudden slavery is really good. And then people go, no, slavery is really bad. But we don't abolish slavery. We create Jim Crow, a new synthesis. And then Jim Crow is good. Jim Crow is bad. And we create civil rights, right? Redlining and all that stuff. No matter what, George Hegel seems to be the most right of right, even though I wish that was not true, but it definitely seems this way. So here's the punchline. Jerome, it's undeniable that the way I positioned that argument, that God cannot be kind, all kind, and all knowing at the same time. There's no way that you can disagree with that. That first off, that argument is so positioned so well, it's just, you can't disagree with it. But the mere fact that I agree with it so much, Grace, I know there's something wrong with that argument because I can't be the standard. Y'all see what I'm doing? I have not got off subject yet. The reason why there is evidence of my Christianity is because I struggle with these thoughts. and I desperately search for a new one that is born again. See what I did, Jerome? See what I did? See what I did? See what I did? Not born from my thoughts, but born from an encounter with God. I'm really preaching really good right now without even doing it, without even trying. I'm saying that I came to a third conclusion. My idea about right must be wrong, and my idea about wrong must be wrong. It's the only logical conclusion. So let me present the argument to you again. God cannot be all kind. That's a fact. If babies is dying, you don't get to disagree with that. But since I know it to be so true, Kenneth, then the only real thing, Dr. Ferris, that is true is that whatever the heck I think is right, I'm wrong. And whatever the heck I think is wrong, I'm wrong. And that's my belief in God. That every time I try to quantify God, understand God, I'm wrong. And every time I try to be right about God in my life, I'm wrong. And every time I look at you and don't see God, I'm wrong. And every single time I want to get mad at you and say, I would never do this, I'm wrong. And I would rather have Dr. Ferris poke holes in that paper that I just presented to you just now and be perfectly okay creating harmony on this planet than to convince you all God is not real. See, you're missing it. Oh, whether God is real or not, that's on you. You choose ye this day what you gonna think. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness of, and your ignorance. Okay? All of that is part of it. Doesn't bother me one bit. Your ignorance is the Lord's too. You understand, Grace? Your arrogance is the Lord. What? The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, huh, Jerome? All right, and so your little funky church is too then. Okay? All that. Knowing that babies die of cancer, and I have a problem with that. I recognize in me clearly I'm the problem, not the babies dying of cancer, not God doing it. I'm the problem. So what comes out of that problem, Grace? This is why I'm changing the world. Yeah, listen to me very well. The reason why all my projects are so ambitious to try to change the world comes from this thinking. If you ever try to understand Antonio, I'm about to give it to you right now. Because I have a major problem that 40,000 children are dying a day. So I'm going to do something about it. I have a major problem that children are dying of cancer. So I'm creating genomic, artificial intelligence-driven medicine. See, these divisions exist for a reason. My very problem is propelling my very projects. Because I don't try to blame God no more. I don't try to blame people no more. And I don't put God in the gaps either. I say, clearly I'm the problem. Because I keep letting us vote for these men, still not a woman yet, and mess up the country and the world. And I keep letting them do it. I need to do something about it. Y'all get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's difficult. That's an insane amount of responsibility I just took. I'm going to read Dr. Ferris' comment because he quoted Aristotle. You would quote Aristotle, for God's sakes. Aristotle is like, oh, Plato, you've been such a good teacher. Now that I'm the man, I don't want none of your stuff no more. Because that's what Aristotle basically did. And was right in a lot of things that he said. Here's what I'm saying in simplicity. Jerome, I don't know if God exists. And you know what, Tracy? I got a damn good argument for God not existing if I wanted to. And right there, that's when I know I'm the problem. See, y'all don't want to do that. I'm kind to people because my default setting is, oh, it must have been my fault. I said a whole lot right there. I didn't say it's in God's will for me to be kind to you. No, it's my fault that I wasn't kind enough.
Well, I don't blame me for shit.
There you go. Appropriately said.
You got what you got because you did this. You got what you got because you did this to deserve this. You did this. You caused me to do this to you. You caused me to do this to you.
It's definitely different what I'm saying. It's definitely different than what I'm saying. And fair enough.
How I think now.
Yeah, I heard that. I punched you in the face because you did that, Jerome. If you don't make me punch you in the face again, and you won't get punched in the face. How about that? Scorpio life.
So I'm trying.
I should let you talk the whole call.
I'm trying. Some days I do really well. Some days I do not. But this morning, I would say a quarter of the morning, you get what you deserve. This is what you asked for. This is what you get. And I think that's how most of us live our lives.
That's why most of us are not in the top 1%, though. I can take
right.
that.
I'm saying I'm in agreement, but this is how most of us live our lives because unfortunately that's how we were taught directly and indirectly. You hit me, I hit you back.
Fair enough.
You hit me, I hit you back.
No, that's fair. Our parents sure enough taught us that, huh?
Before you get me. All of that. So I'm just, y'all know I'll be telling the truth on myself. I just.
This is what this is for. Listen, I need to wrap up and get to my closing thoughts in about 8 minutes, but here's what's been accomplished. Y'all should write these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Write these 5 things down. Projection and the shadow. Carl Jung would see a narcissist's claim of empathy as a projection of their shadow self. Narcissists, don't write this down. I'm going to copy and paste it for y'all. Narcissists, lacking self-awareness and reflection, project their unacknowledged and disowned qualities on others. This is what I'm trying to tell y'all. Anything you can account for, you can control. It's something I've been saying for years. I think I'm the only person that says it. Deanna quotes it all the time now. When you leave something unaccounted for, unacknowledged, you're a very bad person. What do empaths do? I would never be evil. Come on. By show of hands, all of you great empaths, how many of y'all claim, know, do, speak, and have that you don't do evil things unless pushed? Come on, help me out, somebody. Come on now.
Big facts.
Thank you so much, sir. Can I give y'all an Antonio quote that's going to make this make sense? Anything you did to me when we fell out, you wanted to do when we was together.
Reverend.
No doubt. No doubt. I got a 6 paragraph email about how bad of a friend I was, but you didn't get what you want. See? And now you text message me, you want to be my friend again.
Anything I do to Dr. Ferris behind his back, I wanted to do in front of it. Let's make this personal. So for whatever crazy reason, I don't know, I'm sure he can hear. He's probably doing push-ups right now or something. You know, he runs like 5 miles a day every day. Dr. Ferris just gets his ass up and just run for whatever crazy reason. Who knows? He just gets it. He has He's got all cartilage and tendons in his knees and ankles. They work just fine, right? He just gets up and runs for no reason at all. You know, them people that it be snowing outside and they be running in the shorts with no shirt. That's Dr. Ferris. And it's just, you know, that's what he just gets up and runs. He has, for whatever crazy reason, taken me on his doctoral tour. He gave me a bunch of options, and I was like, "Oh, well, if all that, you know, I'll just stick with you. I don't want to blah blah blah," because he gave me a bunch of options. I chose myself. He chose me, but he gave me the option to choose. Choose ye this day whom I was going to serve. You understand, Grace? I had to choose my own path. So I'm fully aware now that every single thing that I teach, Jerome, will reflect upon him. This is empathy. Let's keep walking this path, Grace. I'm fully aware. Wow. Every crazy thing I say is going to reflect upon him. Now, he can say, well, you know, Antonio, that's on you. True. But when Jared became a pedophile, it was on Subway, wasn't it? All right, let's keep it real. Let's keep it real, okay? So if he go ahead and sign me off as PhD student, I become the Antichrist. He go forever be the dude who gave the Antichrist a PhD.
Dr. Ferris is getting fired.
They can't even fire. He gonna get fired, right? He say he run rain or shine. So I'm fully aware that the moment I agreed for him to be, with his permission now, for him to be my doctoral professor, and I'm not a doctoral candidate. Maybe 3 years from now I would be. I'm a doctoral student. I have not earned candidacy. You understand, Jerome? And I respect that. I respect that. In all my brilliance, I respect that I have to earn my stripes. And moving forward, every single thing that I do is going to represent him. And looking backwards, every single thing that I did is going to reflect him, whether he wants it to or not. And that's empathy. To know that and to adjust to that. To think about his family more than I think about mine. That sounds like y'all scriptures. Pick the Quran, pick the Torah, pick the Bible. It don't matter. It's all in this. It's in all three of them. It's in all three of them. It doesn't matter. It's this idea of no matter how intelligent that I ever become, and I'm clearly intelligent, there's no doubt about that for sure. I can never, ever, ever be more intelligent than my doctoral supervisor professor. Now, his job, there's a metaphor in this, y'all keep listening, is to make sure I'm 2 times smarter than him. Because if he know what he know, and I know what I know, then I'm supposed to leave him 2 times better than him. Can y'all see in both examples, I lowered myself and said, I know everything I do will represent you. And then he must lower himself and say, I know everything I do will make you better than me. And that's y'all scriptures. And that becomes that right of right I've been arguing for 2 hours and 48 minutes. Equality must be created. I'm never going to be a PhD, in which he convinced me. He probably the only person on the planet could convince me. He convinced me. I'm never going to be a PhD until he lowered himself and deal with my crappy dissertation. He done already chopped it up twice, y'all. His last message was real short. I was like, yes. I knew he was going to chop it up. But it was short this time. That first one, it was like reading the Chronicles. It was that long. The first 11 paragraphs. I was like, damn, I got a lot of work to do. And then he was like, therefore, Antonio, do this with the next 9 paragraphs. So, but I did take all of his advice. And so that's why the second message was shorter. Here's the deal. I don't know who's right, Jerome. I don't. I just know that the moment I decide who's right, I'm wrong. There is something wrong with us as human thinking we are so good that we cease to be effective and be good. Dr. Ferris put some Aristotle. Let me read this. Deanna, read this Aristotle quote because it's so on point right now in this time. It's at 717. Hard to understand too because Aristotle was very hard to understand.
Are you denying Aristotle's take on the just and right?
Okay, that's Dr. Ferris. Here's the quote.
By doing just acts, the just man is produced. By doing temperate acts, the temperate man. Without acting, well, no one can become good.
I have a love-hate relationship with this quote. And let me tell you why. I'd rather default to science here than this quote. And by default to science, I'm going to default to nature, not the study of science, not what man has done. Y'all hear me? I'm not going to default on what science is E equals MC squared or no, not what man has created even. Because science is only us shrinking the universe down to a comprehensive understanding that we can teach. That's all science is. That's all anything is. That's all anything is. I'm going to look at trees and answer this question. Does a poisonous tree bear good fruit? No. So I have a problem with the A part.
Only to the right suitor.
Well, fair enough then. Yeah, if you're looking to poison a water supply, then that tree is living out its purpose, isn't it? It's like, good tree. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. I didn't see that coming. That's a good point. That's a really good point. So I have a problem with the A part of this quote because, and here's the deal. This is a quote that Aristotle may not be doing, but I'm taking it too far. Okay, I'm taking it too far. I have a problem with the A part because I've been a bad person doing good deeds, fooling y'all. Who know what I'm talking about? It was so easy for me to sit in the back of the church and go, yeah, look at her trifling. You know what came after that. Look at him and you, because you couldn't see me sleep with old girl 2 hours ago. You can't see that.
2 hours ago?
Child, did not Jerome tell you heathen? What part of heathen was you not grasping?
At least it wasn't in the church.
Well, if I had an opportunity to get away with it, I don't know,
Jalen, I had one of those in my church. I went in the choir room, okay? Leave early, panties on the floor, skirt up, and I closed the door. I said, what in the? Ain't the man preaching upstairs? I walked out. Yeah, I had one of those in my church.
No doubt. So think of temperate as self-control as we come with this second part here. I think that a man is good because of self-control. Period. I think that if you're a very good person and all you do is produce good fruit, but you let your mom and your dad take advantage of your good fruit, and that fruit gets perilously wasted, then you're not a good tree. You're a waste of a tree. You're going to receive this truth on this day. I think it's a whole bunch of good people in toxic relationships being waste of Christian walk. You're going to get all this truth today. I got like 6 minutes left to get y'all. 6 minutes left. Blame Dr. Ferris, because I jokingly said blame him in the beginning, but now it really is his fault. Now it really is his fault. It really is. Because me producing good things without temperament ain't good no more. Here's the deal. I'm not talking about creating dumb laws. We're not talking about lack, right? Like, well, self-control is, Antonio, don't let any Mexicans come get it. Don't let any blacks come get it. No, this is what we do. I'm using real examples. This is what we do. This is what we do. Pakistan don't want India. India don't want Pakistan. The United States don't want Mexico. Like, this is what we do. That's not temperament. That's ignorance. Is it wise? But this goes back to that age-old question. Does God give out sloppy grace? Is it wise for Dr. Ferris to invest in me with his good fruit? Follow me while I follow him, for me to mess up his reputation. That'd be a good tree being stupid. There's a great word for this. We call it stewardship. The second part of this verse is about stewardship. I get it. Everybody say all the time, you're wiser than your years. I'm really Socrates with it. I just ask a lot of questions all day to a bunch of smart people. And I just figure out these smart people don't know nothing. They don't know nothing. Because the moment you become smart, it's the moment you stop becoming smart. The moment you become smart, then the moment you don't let anything else in. The moment you become good is the moment you don't let any other goodness in.
That reminds me of that quote by Frederick Douglass. The moment you stop like growing or wanting to learn, you basically become dead.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's undisagreeable with. None of that was a real word or a phrase, but we're gonna make it work. We're gonna make it work. I'm putting out everything I taught today. I just did not quote. I did not quote it, but every single thing that I taught today is I took Carl Jung's teachings and I juxtaposed, that means to set side by side, narcissism and the narcissist who thinks that he or she is an empath. If you look in the chat right now, every single thing, just put it in chat. It's in my language. If you don't speak like Antonio on a regular basis, you need to take ChatGPT, explain this to me like I'm 10 years old. You need to put that in ChatGPT and explain, okay? Because that's a bunch of scholar stuff over there. I do apologize in advance. Y'all give me 5 minutes and we out of here. That's everything I taught. I promise you, I taught every single thing. I'm never without an agenda, y'all. I just have this really cool way of dumbing things down so the masses can get it. Paul says, what's the point of using all them big words? You don't believe me? Paul hit it hard, Jerome. Speak tongues better than all y'all. What you talking about? Can't nobody here speak tongues better than me. He did. I swear that's in the text. But I stopped doing all that because the people need to understand. That's a gross paraphrase, but I promise you, I did not add to that text. I just hooded it up. I did not add to it. Okay. So I've got 5 minutes to convince Tracy that somehow I was right. Not right that she should believe me, but right enough to where she should go research on her own. So I'm going to tell you this. I've never, human experience. Now you get to, you ask yourself this too. Remove you from the equation. We know you the best thing on this planet, and you ain't never seen. We know this. So just remove you from this equation and ask yourself, everybody who thinks they are good in your life, who claims it out loud, explicitly, X means to out of, like exodus, out of. That's a, what is that? Greek? I think it's, it can't be Greek if it's in Hebrew. Could be Latin. I don't remember. I'm going to say Hebrew. There's prefix in the Hebrew. It's been so long since I've thought about that. But anyway, X is out of. It's probably Latin. It feels like Latin. Out of. Okay, Dr. Ferris would know. X is out of. So I want y'all to think here for a second, Jalen. Take yourself out of it, and everybody that y'all know out loud saying how good they are. Tell me what percentage of them are mean and not good. Take yourself out of it. I didn't ask you about you. I didn't ask you. Okay, I got one, all of them. Don't agree with me. Please, I'm looking for, well, everybody in my family is. Okay, she said it was Latin. Thank you, Tracy. It does sound Latin now that I think about it. Listen, every single person in my human experience that thinks they are the cream of the crop are the Pharisee in the middle of the episode with the tax collector. You know what good parents do? Crush their children. You know what good children do? Crush their parents.
What do you mean by crush?
Right.
Crush. Now here's the deal. We're not talking. Remember, the way I use good is good out loudly. Good out loudly. This is the way I'm using good. That's why I did all that. Is it Latin? Is it Greek? I couldn't remember. We're saying those people who are the loudest about being good and perfect, I've never seen one of them that lived up to it.
Oh yeah, the people who talk the most do the least.
I've never seen one of them that lived up to it. If you're good, you don't have to say nothing. It just shows up. I don't have to prove to y'all I'm intelligent. It come out my damn mouth.
Well then can I ask some? I know you're
Yes,
ending.
sir.
I'm sorry, but this
Oh,
is
you're
like
good.
So then when are you too humble to not accept or to like not accept what you're worth, I guess?
When you're not being a good steward of what's been given to you, because every single thing on this planet has been loaned to you. You don't own anything. So the moment that you're too humble, too good to recognize that I don't own anything, so when Dr. Ferris gives me something, my job is to say thank you. I can say to God be the glory, but it needs to be in the energy of thank you, because he didn't have to give it to me because he don't own anything and he gave it to me. And I don't get up to, oh, no, I can't take that. No, I can take it. So the activation of his blessing can be complete.
Okay, so what if you're taking something but you're gonna throw it away in the end anyways? Like you know wholeheartedly, I'm gonna take this to make them feel good, but I'm finna throw it away.
Well, then you violate Romans chapter 14. Now you're going to get your.
So then should I push them away and say no?
Well, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just making sure.
But
Because
hold
I
on.
was just in a situation like this.
Okay, so let me explain this. I'm ending with this. I was going to end at 8:05. I'm ending at 8:05 with this example here. Romans 14 says, "Don't cause your brother to stumble." It's all about the whole chapter. Remember, Paul is about to die. He knows he's about to die. He's going to the center of the earth, writing his greatest writing he could ever write, because he knows if I can just get it out, the whole world will hear it, because all roads lead to Rome was not a metaphor, it's a real thing. And Paul, the Apostle Paul, in his second to last chapter of his life, says the Holy Spirit ought to make you act a certain way in community. So when Jalen takes something from me and then throws it away, that's not right or wrong, according to Romans 14, until he sets it, filters it through his motives through the Holy Spirit. If you took it because it meant so much to me, and you were literally being the energy where I could go do much greater things, then you did the right thing. But if you took it because you didn't want it and you was never going to get it, then you did the wrong thing, because your Holy Spirit should be matching God's motives. It doesn't matter if he throws it away. Listen very carefully. It doesn't matter if he throws it away. The motives in which he received it and the motives in which he threw it away, that's the whole point of your Holy Spirit, according to your Christian belief. Your motives are to match God's. God don't keep all the timber I send to him, assuming God is in him. Okay, go ahead, Tracy. You are you last.
No,
Now,
I was just gonna say, but instead of because this happens a lot too. Like sometimes people will bless me with things that I don't, or my daughter especially with things that she's not gonna use. But what we've come to, like you said, we don't want to stop anybody else's blessings from being activated by them blessing us. So instead of us throwing it away, what we do is say, okay, we'll take it. We may not use it or we may not want it, but we'll find someone else who we can bless with it that may want it instead of throwing it away. That's all I was just thinking when
no,
Jalen was
it's a good
asking it.
thought. The reason why I'm so cautious to tell Jalen he was not right or he was not wrong with throwing it away, because I don't want to make him stumble. I don't know what his motive was. Hear me well. I don't know what his motive was. If it aligned with God, he was right. But you know how many times my daughter has given me a cookie or a Dorito or a fake mud pie, and I went, and then I threw it away right after, as soon as she turned around. But I can't say, screw you, baby. Grow up and be a stripper one day because I didn't love you. I can't. No. We're going to keep it real. I mean, I'm probably keeping it too real. We're going to keep it real, though. Go ahead and do that. Or let me take this with correct motives. And when she turned her back, throw it away. So I don't know if Jalen was doing that to somebody, a babe in Christ, who needed to receive and needed to see it. And I don't want to tell him a solid answer, because Jesus wouldn't do that to you. Jesus would say, listen, man, do unto God unto God. He would write in the sand and say, what did you do? And you'd be like, I did this. He'd say, well, good, keep doing it or something. All I'm trying to tell you is the Holy Spirit ought to teach y'all to shut up too. This was a shut up moment for Antonio. I had answers all day until you asked that, because I don't want to make you stumble. Holy Spirit ought to make me shut up too.
For me, it was just, you don't take from evil. You can see someone's real motives, and then like out of the blue, you just come up after ignoring, avoiding, just weirdness. You come up and offer me something. I don't feel that. I don't do that. And I don't take when I know that can mean something that I might owe you. Because last time you did something like this, now, oh, you need help with this, and you need all this. No.
I'm inclined to agree with your behavior, brother. Let me tell you. Now that you gave more details, I mean, look, Tracy's like, yeah, I'm inclined to agree. All I want to tell you in this, Grace, 1 minute. I need 60 seconds. Timing, do a ding ding and all that stuff. Well, yeah, Grace, give me the ding ding and all that stuff. 1 minute. I'm just trying to say that my intelligence had a really good answer for Jalen. Like when he asked that question, my mental Rolodex scrolled through theology, philosophy, Carl Jung, Sigmund Freud. I went to Les Brown quotes. My head in nanoseconds was like, ooh, I'm finna look real. I'm finna kill this. That's what my pastor would call the flesh. You hear me? But I knew the right answer was Romans 14. Don't make this boy stumble. He looks up to you. He listens to you. He asked a question. It wasn't difficult. He asked a question about keeping something with motives. Don't you give that man an answer as if that's the right answer? Because the only right answer is, did you check your motives, Jalen? That's the only right answer. And now that he gave more information, he gave the right answer. God, we come to you right now in prayer for Mr. Phil, who just broke his hip. He's right now in the hospital recovering. And people like me, all this intelligence Antonio has going to put negative thoughts on him, saying things like, well, you know, Phil, be careful, because at your age, 70 plus, when you break your hip, it's all down here from there. God, we buying that. We don't receive that. That ain't on our throne. That's not what we're doing. Let people keep that away. So let's focus on the positive as a collective union in this prayer and send peace to his wife, who has to be absolutely stressed out. And let's make this hospital visit one that let them catch up on work. One that after they leave, they say, you know what, it was actually a good thing we were there because we didn't know we was overworked until we got there, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And let everybody on this call don't just go, oh my God. May the messages be with love. May Phil receive the outpouring. And don't let us do the church thing, Lord, and just respect the man of God and leave the woman of God out. May Susan get that same energy. May she get that same love, according to whatever your faith is. Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Cool.
I do
All right, child. Thank you. I'll say it again.
I do have an update.
Oh, you got an update. Okay. I am done. I only went 11 minutes over. Her update is on her. Y'all throw stones at her. Okay. All right, then go ahead.
Mr. Phil goes into surgery tomorrow. Miss Susan said he was up on the gurney talking to everybody. Y'all know Mr. Phil.
So let us be in alignment that whoever is going to wake up in the morning and clean his floor, that they go to sleep in a high vibration tonight. Whoever's going to put the hospital crease on the bed, super high vibration. Whoever going to take the blood, let them be getting super high vibration all night. To everybody that got to touch anything, Tracy. We want them watching comedy tonight. You hear me? And all sorts of fun stuff. So when they touch Phil, they're not touching him with that poison.
Amen.
All right, then. And then, yes, there is D6 in the morning, and all y'all pray for Dr. Ferris, who will be running in the morning. He don't need no prayer. I just wanted to call out that he will be running in the morning yet again. So
wait, is he the person you be posting all the time that be running them 5 miles all the time in the morning?
Oh no, that's my running buddy from Jersey. And yeah, that's my running buddy from Jersey. I'm supposed to be running every day, so every time I post that, they like, where the miles at, bro? So I put them all. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, y'all. Love you, everybody.
Love you more.
All right, y'all. Y'all have a good one.